Introducing the Marketplace Ministry that reaches from coast to coast. Teaching ideals and principles to help women with their unanswered issues. Training women to help with their life skills and how to change behaviors for a better view of life. Also informing women by giving them facts and information to help obtain their goals. With a cutting-edge approach to questions and answers that most women are reluctant to ask, we also help reach these goals and break down these issues and barriers with faith-based counseling and professional workshops that will guide them in their future endeavors. And now, here is our life coach, Dr. Ezrayon Jackson.
Well, hi and happy December. It's December, you guys. It is the last month of the year. Welcome to another segment of Sweet Talk. It is an acronym for Sisters Uncensored for Intimate Time of Engagement. And we're so happy that you have joined us on today. We want you to like it and to comment and to share. We want you to also engage with us because we want to have a conversation with you too. We want to hear your side of the story. We want to answer your questions. We want to garner your wisdom as we ladies talk about life situation. And we've had an impactful year. We've talked about all kinds of subjects that affect women. We are so prolific and eclectic. I mean, we go from work, to taking care of our children, to loving our husbands, to cleaning the house. There's so many things that we do: praise and worship service, Bible study, Bible classes, grandmothers, aunties. We do so much, and it's good for us to take some time just to chill and talk about life's issues. And nobody's right and nobody's wrong. And we don't want anybody to be embarrassed. We just want to talk about the things that affect us as women. And it has nothing to do with denomination. It has nothing to do with your creed or your color, your age. It could be anybody's age. I was talking to my granddaughters. I said, you want to come on. Because what we're talking about, you're going to be an adult one day. You're going into your teenage years, and you're going to need this information. So what we're talking about on today is life skills. And I'm so honored to have our Virginia Sweet Talk representative, Gwen. We're just having some technical difficulties with her line, so she might have to engage with us on Facebook opposed to the live stream because there's a lot of feedback. But she is our Sweet Talk representative from Virginia on tonight. Our representative from California is doing coaching tonight. She's just launched her ministry, and she's doing wonderful. And so she's going to join us one day this month, because we're coming on every Wednesday. This is just a special segment because we missed last Wednesday. And so we have 8 components of life skills that we want to share with you and talk with you about. And we want you to share with us your thoughts as well. Hi, Kai. Donna is on. Yes, good evening, sis. That's my sister, and one of my daughters is in Virginia. She's on here today. So get your friends. Let's gather. Let's talk about life skills. I'm also honored to have this phenomenal woman who is going to help us navigate through this subject. And she is from Oakland. She's from Oakland, California. I know there's an Oakland, Michigan, but she is from Oakland, California, the home of the Black Panthers. Y'all know I used to be a Black Panther. Well, I used to be a lot of things. Yeah. But we're so grateful to have this astonishing woman. She's so many things, but she's a pastor. She's a lover of the people of God. She just loves life. Her husband assists her in the ministry, and they work congruently together. And so she's going to be talking with us. We just kind of slipped Gwen in here because she's taking next week, and we have a social worker that's coming on next week. So you don't want to miss next week's segment. So this week's, well, hi, Kay Reed, how are you?
Hi. I'm blessed to the Lord. Hello. Hi, everybody. I send love from California.
Awesome, awesome. And Gwen, you have something you want to say before we go into the heart of our questions? And
Well, I'm just glad to be here and be a representative because life happens, and it's wonderful to have a group of women that we can sit here and talk about life and how we can navigate through it and have the proper skills that we need to make it through the things that we go through, wearing our many hats and being every woman. So thank you for having me on tonight. And I pray my technical difficulties will improve so I can stay on here and talk with you awesome women of God.
thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gwen. We appreciate you so much. So the subject is life skills. We toss that word, we toss words around, and we really don't understand what they mean. I used to be, I pastored, and I started pastoring when I was around 27 years old. And that's really young for a pastor. I was only 27, started my first church with my husband in Oakland, California, Evangelistic Deliverance Center. And so our generation, we just thought church was just about inspiration and preaching and running around the church and shouting and hearing the music and et cetera, et cetera. But I knew that there was a component that was missing, but I didn't know what it was. And it was teaching people life skills. We assume that parents taught life skills. And really, parents are supposed to be the support mechanism for teaching their children life skills. But unfortunately, because of the generational poverty line, miseducation, a plethora of things, many of our parents did not teach us life skills. And I had members who were just doing kind of strange stuff as far as life was concerned. Stuff like, don't know how to handle a checking account. I don't know if you all remember, people used to use their children's social security number to have their lights turned on.
Yes.
You know, not knowing how to handle credit cards. I mean, we put the horse before the cart. One thing my daddy told me, because my dad was a hardworking man, he had a lot of wisdom, and he said, it does not make sense to have a Cadillac and not have a garage to put it in. And so things like that, life skills that we're supposed to learn from like washing your hands. Now Corona done taught us,
Right.
Corona done taught us, you better wash your hands or you're going to die. But we have so many people in our community that do not know what life skills are. And we're going to talk about the 8 components of what that is. But tonight we want to talk about self-awareness and self-management. Self-awareness and self-management. What is life skill? It's a collaboration of skills that is necessary for or desired for full participation in everyday life. And the key word is full participation. And that's in every aspect of life. I hear people talking about the devil did this and the devil did that. I'm so tired of people talking about they under attack. No, you just need some life skills.
Right.
Handle your business. Everything is not the devil. Hello. People trying to attack you and don't like you. No, that's your perception of yourself. And you're quickly offended just because they don't wave back. They ain't got to wave back. I waved. If they don't want to wave back, that's their problem. So how do you get to a point where you are self-aware, and not only self-aware, but you can manage that awareness? Another good definition of life skills are abilities for adaptive and positive behavior. Adaptive and positive behavior that enables humans to deal effectively with the demands and the challenges of life. This concept is also termed as psychosocial competency. So, you know, when people got attitudes, you can't talk to them. They don't know how to take criticism. They don't know how to critically think. They don't know how to walk through problem solving. And they just have attitudes with you because you do. So why do people, I mean, you know, Elder Gwen deals with homeless people. How do we get people to the point where they don't become homeless? And I'm not talking about what the pandemic is doing, because the pandemic is causing the loss of jobs. This whole dimension is just crazy and off. So nobody's to blame. But how do we prepare young people to not be homeless? How do we prepare young people with life skills to go to college? Because statistics say the first semester they either get pregnant, or they drop out, and they owe student loans, and they can't finish throughout their graduate year. So we want to talk about some of those things, and not only young people. We talk about some old people. I bet some old people that don't have life skills and have attitudes and dispositions. Kaida said, let me look at some of these comments that we have coming up. All right, everybody saying good evening. Good evening, Monica. Bless you. Thank you so much for chiming in. Sharon. Yes, Sharon comes on just about every time we come on. Thank you so much for joining in. We want you to comment along with this subject on today. So, okay, let's talk about, we know what life skills there are. So let's talk about the components of life skill, which is self-awareness and self-management. Next week, Gwen and the social worker, Effie, are going to be talking about empathy and sympathy. And there's a difference between that. When I had COVID, I asked my group, please don't put it on Facebook, because I don't want people sympathizing, because sympathy is not going to do nothing for me. If people don't have the ministry of empathy, and they can't really intercede on my behalf, and all they can do is P-R-E-Y and not P-R-A-Y. So I had people that were empathizing with my plight and interceding. So learning the difference between those two, and then problem solving and decision making, are going to be on next Wednesday. But tonight we're talking about self-awareness and self-management. What is self-awareness? How do we ascertain it? And how do we know if we are doing it right? Let's talk about that a little bit. Pastor K, what is self-awareness?
Good evening, Dr. Jackson. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on here. Self-awareness to me is actually really knowing who you are, your limitations, what you can do, what you cannot do, the things that you're capable of. And I think sometimes that's what holds us back, because we're really not aware of what we're capable of. We don't really acknowledge, I cannot do this, but I can do this. So self-awareness is really, really important in knowing who you are and knowing how to maneuver in this world. You have to be aware of yourself. You have to understand who you are. You have to understand.
Wait a minute. Right there. Understanding who you are. Thank you, Romero. I think that's positive right there. I would love to have you come and talk with us sometimes. I like the idea. I already feel your vibes. I hear you. We all need life skills. Everybody needs life skills. Yes. That's one of the things that I do for self as a contractor. I do life skill conferences and life skill seminars talk about sexual harassment and sex trafficking, how to maneuver in life, how to have the right kind of behavior, how to have interpersonal, good, healthy interpersonal relationship, and have a good relationship with yourself. So being aware of who you are. And so what we have to really understand is everything about us is not good.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
We have some
Exactly.
idiosyncrasies. We have some baggage that we have brought from our childhood, from our teenage years, and even from our adulthood. And I've heard people say, "Well, that's just the way I am. My mama was like that, and so I'm like that." Well, that doesn't mean that your mother was right or your father was right, and that kind of behavior is not going to allow you to succeed in life. And there's some tables that you're not going to be able to sit at until you can handle your emotions. So being self-aware, what does it do? What do you have to do to be self-aware? What does that really mean?
I think first you have to examine yourself. You have to look and see. Many times we make mistakes, and those mistakes are for us to learn from. So we take that mistake and we sit down and we look at it and we examine it. And we say, well, what could I have done different? What is it that I'm supposed to learn from this mistake?
Absolutely. Rather than have an attitude of pouting about it. They don't like me. Or, I remember raising my children, and I had my extended family. I remember one of the teenagers would always say the teacher don't like me because they were living in a low income supplemented housing project. And so I said, okay, well, come and live with me. I lived in the middle class neighborhood. And I said, so come on and live with me, and we'll see, we'll cut this problem out. But then I found out the same problems that they had in the low income area, they were having in my area. I went to go talk to 3 or 4 of the teachers, and they all sat down and said, well, they're not doing their homework and they have an attitude. So sometimes it's not the teacher. I tell people, if somebody says something, if 3 or 4 people say something to you about you, you need to examine whether that is true or not. Because all of them are not collaborating against you.
Right. That's amazing that you would say that. That's amazing you would say that, Dr. Jackson, because in dealing with millennials or young adults, I find that every relationship, a lot of times they get into, they find fault. It always manages to turn where it's them and not the person that they decided to have the relationship with. And so if you don't understand your idiosyncrasies, like you said, and your faults, what you can do, what you can't do, you're going to keep on bumping into the same situations, and you find it, it's not them, it's really me. Why am I attracted to these type of people? Why is it I keep falling for these same type of people? Why is it I keep connecting in the same relationships?
Exactly. I mean, I read a lot of Carl Jung's. He's a psychologist. He's deceased, but talks about the dark shadow or the dark side of us that I've learned that a lot of times it's our perception, and a lot of times we deflect. We think people think, the scripture tells in Proverbs, so a man thinks, so is he. Okay. I mean, Carl Jung just says it's your dark side, because what you think somebody else thinks it.
Right.
And so, why I've had to examine why when I meet certain people, rather than to flip them off, or when I say flip them off, I ain't talking about doing the finger. I'm talking about just shutting them down, because I have the art of shutting people down. I'm real good at that. I can turn you off and you don't even know you off. But but I had to learn what was it about that person that that I didn't like. and it was nothing, it was really not anything about them or they did to me. And I realized it was me. It was me deflecting. So I had to deal with my dark side. And once I started dealing with the man, and as Michael Jackson would say, start dealing with the man in the mirror.
Right.
That's why, I don't have gossip groups and stuff, because I'm too busy. Because I get to talking about you, and it's like, wait a minute, I think I got a problem in that area too.
Right.
Oh, Renita says conquering yourself is necessary.
It's necessary.
It is. If we work on ourselves, if we really work on ourselves, and we'll quit sabotaging people.
Right. But it goes back also, Dr. Jackson, to being emotionally healthy, being emotionally fit. Many times we are so unhealthy emotionally. We've been damaged, we've been wounded, we live in rejection. There's so many components that come with being hurt, and it produces us emotionally. We become so unhealthy, and we become a ball of emotions. We don't know how to control ourselves. Sometimes we don't know how to think about this. Should I react to that? Did they say that? Or did they really mean that? But I find that if you find a place where you can sit and examine your own self, your own heart, think about the relationships you're in, think about the conversations that you've had, then you find yourself building your emotions up. Sometimes we're just a ball of emotions. We don't know which way to go.
Exactly. But the unfortunate thing about that, because a lot of our audience are church people. And so the problem with that is we go to church wanting the people and the pastor to meet expectations that they were never designed to meet.
Right.
And then we wind up being church hurt. And then we're victims. We become victims of the church.
Right.
In actuality, our expectations for church were wrong.
Right.
Originally, church was a place of inspiration. I don't want to break. I'm a bishop, so I can break it down. But church is the government of the kingdom of God. So and if we are the church or the body of Christ, if I am the church, it means the word church is a Roman Greco word, and it comes from the Senate, who called themselves ecclesia. It was the government of Rome, and it was a part of the Senate, and they called themselves the ecclesia. So when Jesus said in Matthew 16 and 18, when he talked to Peter, Peter gave a revelation of who Jesus was. And Jesus said, upon the revelation that you have received, upon that, Peter, I will build my government. He said, my church. So if Jesus said my church, somebody else got a church. That church was the Roman government. So everything that we're dealing with today is the government of the United States versus the government of God. But if the church is in us, then we have to govern ourselves before we can govern anybody else.
Right. That's it.
That's the problem. If you don't have any there's three things I say that destroy us. That's either it's money, it's sex, and power. If you can't conquer those three things, then you're going to be totally off. Your focus is going to be off, and it's going to be self-centered, and it's going to be narcissistic. So, we have to examine ourselves by virtue of some people use the word of God. Some people use they have therapists that give them advice. Some people have a meditation, but we as faith people, we trust the word of God.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Overseer said that's where a lot of my hurt came from. Expectation for fulfillment they couldn't fulfill. Absolutely. When we expect, even in marriages, if you're not taught life skills, you think when you get married, that person is supposed to be your other half. That's my other half. No, if you ain't all of me is I'm whole. I don't need no another half.
Right, right.
And so we make mistakes by, thinking that individual is going to make us happy. If you're not already happy,
right.
Because the honeymoon ain't going to last but about a year. If it lasts a year, the honeymoon, and then life going to kick in. The baby going to need shoes, and the light bill going to need due, and insurance got to be paid, and, life is coming on. Y'all done spent been in the bedroom, making whoopee, and that's wonderful. But then life kicks in, and you gonna have to have some life skills in that relationship, and you got to be a whole person to make sure that happens.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
We sometimes, Gwen says, we sometimes tend to be defensive when our faults are brought to our attention instead of listening and examine ourselves and begin to work on change.
Yes, yes, yes. We become very defensive, and you cannot grow when you live in a defense. You just can't grow. You have to be open to change. You have to be open to examine yourself and look at yourself, because you won't have the opportunity to change if you don't open up and allow people to help you change.
Well, and that's one of the segments that we're going to talk about, in in life skill is receiving criticism. So that's a whole nother subject. People don't like to be criticized, but constructive criticism is good.
But you know what, Dr. Jackson, I believe that a lot of this stems from childhood. If we have an unhealthy childhood, many times that will spill over into our adult life. And as children, we have to teach our children to accept constructive criticism, because we have to critique the things that they do. We have to give them small challenges and allow them to make the mistakes and point out their mistakes and show them their mistakes. A lot of times, us as adults, we can't accept constructive criticism because it was never given to us by our parents. We don't know. As a parent, you have to force your children to understand their ups and their downs and their good side and their bad side. And so I think that's where a lot of us are missing it. Our parents weren't perfect. They did the best that they could.
But I think there's a constructive way to do that too.
Yes.
I mean, I come from the generation that, children are not that children are not heard. They just sing. We didn't have a voice like my grandchildren sit down and have a full-blown conversation with me about their likes and what they don't want. We didn't get that opportunity to do that. And so that next generation, the millennials and afterwards, they said, we're not doing that. And we give the millennials a hard time, but they saw some stuff that, that they didn't want to repeat that. And I'm glad they didn't want to repeat it. Debbie, our California representative, says sometimes people come to the church building and forget their life skills. And that's another point. I wonder, I'm working on, I really want to get my master's degree. I'm a late bloomer. And part of it is because, God, people tell me not to say that, but I'm a late bloomer. But I couldn't understand how people have a master's degree and a PhD and leave it at the foyer of the church and forget they got one. And they come to church and they manipulated and controlled. Some stuff that's been said over the pulpit. And I came off the streets, okay? I came off the streets and I love God so much. I just had to get a grip on God before I dealt with some of the stuff that was being said across the pulpit. I was like, when somebody said, women can't be in the pulpit because they got periods. I'm like, are you serious? Women can't wear short sleeve tops because it causes the brothers to lust. I'm like, well, if them Negroes got God, they ain't got no business lusting. They're gonna lust about my underarms. Then but I was considered rebellious. I've always been before my time. I've always had to try to keep myself in check because some of the stuff they were saying to me just didn't make sense. And so you know, I'm so glad that Kamala Harris, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris,
Yes.
is where in the position that she's in, because we can handle complementarianism, but we can't
Mhm.
handle egalitarian, which means, that's what I like about the millennials and XYZ. They're not into patristic. They're not into that patriotic. They're not.
Yes.
You know, show me your goods, whether you're a male or you're a female.
Right.
Uh, and let's get the job done.
Mhm.
So, you know, and I think being aware of that, because they fought us that they fought me tooth and nails when I said I'm just as equal to a man. I'm equal to you, and they were like, "No, you're not. You lesser than you. No." If you make me lesser than, then you're gonna call God lesser than, because He created me after His image. So if I'm lesser than you, then God is lesser than you.
Mhm.
So sexism is deeply rooted in a lot of the teachings in the church, and it still is, because if they were to teach the right thing, if they would, it's almost like trying to back up a plane, and you know, a plane doesn't have reverse on it. You know, you got to have somebody manually back up the plane.
Mhm.
You know, it just has
Mhm.
a thrust forward.
Mhm.
But if some of our brothers, and so we got some sisters too that are
Mhm.
misogynistic too. Don't play.
Mhm.
We got some sisters holding down
Right.
misogynistic mindsets as well. They don't like you. They got a problem with you. They don't think you could be in leadership. And the reason why they don't believe a woman could be in leadership, because they're weak. So they figure
Mhm.
because they're weak and you're a woman, you got to be weak. And the Bible didn't
Mhm.
say that. He said the woman was the weaker vessel, meaning that her
Mhm.
body was weaker than the
Yes.
man, not
Yes.
her mind. And so when you get into what we consider male dominated occupations, you can't go in PMSing and having attitudes. You have to have some life skills and some education to be able to sit at the table and negotiate properly and not be offended when your proposal is not accepted, and know how to go back to the back room and get yourself together and write up another proposal so that you can win. There's a winner in you, but you can't have attitudes.
Right, right. Now, Dr. Jackson, you said something. I need to back your train up just a little bit.
Back
You
it
said
up, back it up.
You said something. You said that we are the weaker vessel physically, but
Yes,
not mentally.
right.
Now, that right there is the obvious, because anytime my husband and I sit down and have a conversation, anytime my husband and I sit down and have a conversation, and he says to me, "Okay, I can't figure this out, and I need you to help me figure this out." And I sit down and I give him my opinion and what I know about the situation, and it gets worked out. What does that say right there? What does that say right there, Dr. Jackson?
It says that you're a couple and you're partners, and you're not intimidated by each other. And
Yes.
it's been that kind of struggle in church. I remember, you know, my late husband, God rest his soul. I hope his soul is resting. Anyway, I remember having a conversation with him, riding down the street in the car. I'm in the passenger side, and they were discussing some of the prominent. We were discussing some of the prominent women. This is about 15, 20 years ago, that were in the church. And I had my ministry, he had his ministry, but you know, his ministry was much more prolific than mine. You know, I spent a lot of time helping and assisting him and putting mine on the back burner. But he wanted me to totally let it go, and I wouldn't let it go because it was my calling. And so the comment that he made, you know, he said, men don't like marrying women like that. And I'm like, well, hold up. What you mean women like that? Women that are assertive and aggressive in preaching and more popular than their husbands, they can't handle it. I said, oh, so that's what our problem is, because I consider myself as one of that women you talking about. And we were well into our marriage, something like 10 years. So he was just having a struggle because that generation had, I mean, it was
Yes.
so seeped into his conscious that he just couldn't, when God called me to the apostleship, and I went to him and I said, and I had somebody that wanted to affirm me. I had my own audience. I had my own seat of influence, separate from his. And I never tried to overpower or win his people over to me. I was to them, I was Lady Lane, I was First Lady, I was this. But then I had a whole nother group that saw who I was beside all of the other, mid-rush. And so I said, well, they wanna affirm me as an apostle. Listen, well, if that you apostle, what that gonna make me? And I'm like, I guess you're gonna be chief. If you got to be something, you can be chief. I don't know. And he had a hard time with that. And so because he had a hard time, I said, okay, I'll table it. And a year later he came to me and said, okay, well, let's do this, because the Lord told me if I don't do it, that he's gonna kill me.
Wow.
And so based upon God's trouble in his spirit, but the thing is that it wasn't so important that I didn't wait.
Mm-hmm.
That caused me to have some integrity that some people don't have today, because they can't wait to be endorsed.
Right. And I think that has a lot to do with self-awareness. You were aware of who you were, of your call. You accepted it. And many times this is where we have a struggle. Our struggle is who we really are and how we allow other people to dictate to us what call we know that's upon our own life.
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why prophets don't make good, and I know this is going to touch some people, not all prophets, but prophets really don't make good pastors if that is your major, because you see the potential of people. And you'll call it, I did it so many times, you call what you see, and they ain't even got there yet.
Right. You calling 10 and they haven't got the 3 yet.
Exactly. Right. But that's part of what you do to build them as a pastor, to get them there.
Yes. But that's why I think that as a prophet, you have the ability to minister outside of your church and have more influence outside of your church, because they accept it and they receive it. Where with your body, they're there to be pastored, to be nurtured.
And people don't understand the difference between, how to, and I operate in all five. So,
yes, you do.
I operate in all five. So sometimes when they call me to be a Women's Day speaker, they looking for a speaker, and the preacher show up, or the prophet shows up, or the pastor shows up. And when the pastor shows up, the pastor don't care who you are. It's just, that's that nurturing time. That's that time to give the word. And somebody said, I think it was Apostle Lane, Salitha Lane, and she said, she called them trendy churches. Trendy churches don't like for you to deal with their sin issues, and sin is just missing the mark. It's the issues about you that need improvement, the issues about you that you need to expunge, you need to get rid of. And I know now people are having sex without marriage, but is that productive for you? Is that, is it productive? And I realize too that there's some marriages that, people shouldn't get married because they ain't marriage material. So it just depends on the individual, and then the individual has to have some kind of accountability, have some kind of coach, spiritual coach or therapist. And our problem is we don't like spending money on ourselves when it comes to our psychological makeup.
Right.
We don't want to spend money on when I say I'm a coach and people say, well, I want you to mentor me. And when I send them an assessment form, that's usually when I lose them. because they don't want to be assessed.
Right.
They don't want to be assessed. They just want to follow me. You
Right.
know, and
Right.
I'm like,
People
no,
are after the blame.
I gotta know what I'm mentoring. I gotta
Right.
know what you need from me, and then you need to know what to expect from me. And so most people can't be mentored because they don't have any life skills.
Comes back to that awareness of yourself, Apostle.
Right.
It comes back to being aware, you know, of what you need.
And they play so long. They have flew under the radar for so long till they're embarrassed. And so, you know, I remember pastoring a young man who couldn't read. I didn't know he couldn't read. He couldn't read. He was married. And I hope he's reading now. But I said, well, how you get a driver's license? Somehow he got snuck over in the corner, you know, some information and he just punched everything. But he didn't know how to read. So he went through life not knowing how to read because he got away with it.
Yeah.
But one of these days, it's going to catch up with you. You know, I was a supervisor for a software company, and I supervised office service people. And if they didn't show up, if the receptionist didn't show up, and if the file clerk didn't show up, now I had my own job. I was an assistant to the vice president of the company. I was their administrator, and I was a supervisor. So if one of those persons didn't show up, I had to do the receptionist. You know, I had to leave my desk to go sit in the front. And some of the excuses that child gave me, I'm like, really? You know, and it just proved, you know, those are entry-level jobs. That's why they call them entry-level jobs, is because they test to see if you do have the kind of skills and professionalism to climb the ladder in the company. And if you can't make it in the mailroom, you can't make it nowhere else. Right. So anyway, let's look at some of our discussions. This is true. Brandi, thank you, Brandi. There are some prophets that have seer's anointing, and it can be frustrating and discouraging when others can't see what God shows you. Yes, it can, but it's also a hindrance to the person sometimes if you tell them what you see, because they're not ready for it.
They're not ready.
Not ready for it. That's why you don't prophesy it. You don't say everything that you see.
Right.
No, sometimes it's just, sometimes as a pastor, what you see is for you to help them get to that place.
Right.
It's almost like God, when he said the word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. My question to the Lord, well, how come you just don't show us the whole picture? And God said, because you ain't ready for the whole picture. You're not going to believe where I'm taking you. Right. Overseer says true, because they don't want to remove the covers. Yes, they do not want to remove. You know, everybody want to be grand, like they ain't got no faults. You know, I'm getting ready to preach a message on giants and grasshoppers. You know, people don't want to show, you know, people act like they giants, but giants got some psychological problems. I'm gonna tell you about Goliath in a minute. And so if you think you're small and your perception of yourself is a grasshopper, then you're never going to succeed in life. You have to understand who you are and what equipment God has given you, and you become just as much as a giant as the giant is, even though you may not be in the same arena with that person or look like the same size that they are. You play an important role, and when you get aware of who you are, like I could be in a room with evangelists and doctors and politicians, people with PhDs, double digit, Howard University, Harvard University. You know, the first thing oh God, you're equipping me today. I got people around me going to help me get where I need to go. I'm not going to cower down, and neither am I going to run my mouth like I know everything. That's the time to be quiet and be self-aware. Look, there's somebody that's got more education than I do, so I need to sit down and listen to what they have to say for free.
Yes, and not be intimidated.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because you can't learn anything being intimidated by anybody. You cannot.
And you can't learn anything by trying to be something that you're not. You're best at being who you are. I'm best at being K-Reen and nobody else. I'm best at wearing a polka dot top with some striped pants. I'm best at that. I can do that. That's me. That's who my personality is. And I think that's where a lot of us miss it, when it becomes being aware of yourself, not accepting who you are.
Right, right. So how do you ascertain self-awareness? How do you get that?
Well, first of all, you have to be a relational person, Dr. Jackson. You've got to have some type of relationship with someone. No, when you become a hermit, an island by yourself, the Bible says that in a man's eyes, he's always right. When I'm constantly by myself, with myself, and there's no challenges for me, I don't have the opportunity to view another person's standpoint. I can't see the world. I can't see my faults because I only see my own righteousness. So the number one key I feel is you've got to be in relationship with someone else, and be in relationship with yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Accountability is very important. I think accountability is extremely important. And being accountable to somebody that's not going to agree with everything that you say, you know, but not always criticizing or putting you down, but someone that has good perception, good life skills, good assessment skills, and not always telling you what to do, but giving you tools to make the right decision.
I was a member at my church before I branched off into ministry, and after our major conferences, we always had leadership meetings. We'd have leadership meetings to find out how the conference went, what was done right, what was done wrong. And one of the main points I remember our administrator would do, she would point out all of the great things that we did. She would tell us about everything that went right. In other words, she would build us up. And then she would show us where we could have improved or where we made the mistake. So when you are building people up, when you are mentoring people, when you know this, Dr. Jackson, you have to first, let's look at your good points. Let's talk about your good points. And then we talk about where you can improve in the areas that you need to be built up on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, I have a group that I am, well, of course I have my bishop, Archbishop Slater, Warren Slater, but I have a group that I have a lot of confidence in, and you're part of that group.
Yes.
And so I had this interview. I haven't been interviewed in I don't know how many years. I'm like, I've interviewed people, but I haven't been interviewed in I don't know how long. I was like, really? And so my question to them on the thread was, what do you think my stronger points are? And then I asked, what do you think my weaker points are? And of course, Pastor Debbie, she is
your baby.
A woman of diplomacy. She is such a woman of diplomacy. And she understands that, because I teach leaders all the time, that sometimes I don't have patience for the first grade. I like, you know, go over there to K-Reen. She tell you that. Like, go over there to Gwen. She tell you that. You know? And so she said, and she so candidly said it, you might want to reconstruct how you deal with being patient with following through on people who may be a little slow. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna work on that. You know, I'm gonna work, because I know what slow is. I'm slow when it comes to technology, and they have to take me through 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, Phyllis has to take me through everything. I said, you got to get on this team view with me on the computer, because I can't figure it out. I'm just just dumb stupid. It's just dumb stupid. So I want her to be patient with me. I'm like, I'm sorry, but I don't understand. Would you help me? And so I look at that sometimes and I say, okay, this is my strength. I'm a human services person. I'm a human resource person. I'm a facilitator. I'm a preacher. And so I got to give people the chance to grow, just like people give me a chance to grow.
But the reality of it is you admit where your weak points are, and you know where you need to grow. And I think that's where people have problems. They become embarrassed, or they become ashamed of their weak points. We're all human. We all have weak points. And in pastoring, this is some of the points that I have to make to my members. Don't be ashamed to say, I can't do that, or I don't understand that. That doesn't make you lesser than. It doesn't make you lesser than a person. You're still a great person. You're still an awesome person. You're still wonderful. It's just that you haven't got to this point yet. And we all have shortcomings that we haven't got,
Well, I remember being like that in school, in high school. I wouldn't raise my hand because I want nobody to think I was stupid. But then when I got in college, it was like I ain't care. My tuition is $1,400, $1,400 for this class, and I want to learn. So
exactly,
and then if you don't know, then you ask. So I had to ascertain. I had to be aware of my embarrassment. Where did that come from?
Yes.
Why was I embarrassed? Why was I made to feel stupid because I asked a question? And so I had to deal with that. And once I dealt with that, then I got, the trauma of that. And Natasha talks about, we got a wonderful trauma coach by the name of Natasha Miller who deals with traumas and walks you through that process of facing what traumatized you, facing your fears. Rain she jumped out of a plane. I'm like, for what? Jumping out of the plane. So for what? She was excited about jumping out of the plane. I want to know for what. I mean, what in the world? Where is your head at? And she said, I wanted to face my fears. She liked the adrenaline. And so that gave me a lot of information about her, And I said, well, you go for it, girl. Because that it ain't a fear. I just don't want to be jumping out of planes. Really? Yeah. But it's something that she faced. And she was courageous about it, and she was excited about it, and so I got excited for her. Like I jumped out the plane, you go and do you don't and some folks like she just thinks she's something. Yeah, she do think she's something.
Yeah, she is something.
Yes,
she is something. But something you said that just sparked something in me. When you face your fears, it releases the toxins that are in you.
When you face your fear,
something you said triggered. When you face your fear, it will release the toxin that's in you, because there's toxins behind fear. And that's what fear. That's what fear grows on, and that's what it thrives on. Those toxins. But once you face it, and it is so true, those toxins can be released, and now you have the opportunity to grow.
Wow. That point right there. Hey, Tara. That point right there, it releases toxins. Because you around toxic people, that's the indication that their life skills is jacked up. It's the indication when they can't have interpersonal relationship with you and behave correctly with you, engage with you, learn how to forgive. Some people don't even know how to ask for forgiveness.
Right.
They don't even know how to admit to. I have a person that bought my car, and he's supposed to buy it, and it was a Cadillac. He liked it. He gave me the first down payment on it, but he owed me $3,000 or $4,000. And he called me after he paid the first $500 and told me he couldn't pay for the car. And then sold the car to somebody else. And he's still doing praise and worship. And I ain't throwing out. I'm just trying to encourage people that there are people like that that become, their conscience is so seared that they don't know how to say I'm sorry. They don't know how to come back and say I owe you. Can I pay you?
Right.
They just continue on with what they're doing. And so, but you can't get stuck in that. I'm like, I needed that for $4,000 because I wasn't getting any income at that time. I was getting nothing. Do you hear me? I was getting nothing. And if it had not been for some saints that are so faithful to making sure that their apostle is taken care of, those 8 months that I was without any income, I don't know what I would have done. But God always takes care of me. But I'm just saying that person owed me that.
But that's still a fear that he didn't want to face. He didn't want to face the controversy of the decision that he made, a bad decision. And that's part of facing your fears, is being able to go to someone and say, I was wrong. Or go to them and say, I made a mistake.
Yes, absolutely. And I've done that. I remember leaving my church in Oakland and it was all about me. And I realized, I said, oh, that was such a selfish move. And when I went back, I asked, people came from Texas. They came from all over because they were dispersed. And I stood up and cried. I said, I am so sorry. Forgive me for my youth, my inexperience. I did not handle you all correctly. And I don't want you to go through life. I know it hurts you, but I'm here to say I'm sorry. Sometimes sorry can't heal, can't get rid of what happened, but at least it brings some closure. There's somebody that hurt me, or the situation. I mean, these people loved me. They loved me. And they had no idea why I just got up and left, because I was so hurt and traumatized. And when you're hurt and traumatized, you think everybody is against you.
But it was your integrity that brought you back.
Yes.
To apologize.
Yes, I had to. And I've always been like that. So I'm careful not to hurt people in a way that I have to come back, and I watch what I say and I do before I move forward.
But sometimes as a prophet, like you say, Dr. Jackson, sometimes it'll just come out. And you have to really be careful. You really have to pray about what God shares with you. God, what do you want me to do? Why did you tell me this? Why did you say this? Do you want me to you want me to pray about it? You want me to talk to them about it? What reason?
Wow. Well, I think we ascertain self-awareness as we grow.
Yes.
Become aware of our growth. I tell people, if you don't get stuck in a rut, if you were, I used to smoke cigarettes.
I did too.
And so now cigarette smoking doesn't bother me when I'm around people that smoke. I don't have a desire to smoke, but it may bother me because of the smoke. But it doesn't bother me. You're delivered when you can be in the midst of something and you don't want it.
Right,
so
right.
That brings an awareness to you. I'm aware that I'm completely delivered from this. I'm completely over this. I don't cry over everything like I used to, because some things I don't cry over anymore, because I don't engage myself in a way that my heart and everything is fully in it, that it hurts me so bad.
Yes.
So that's how. And how do we know that we're doing it right? We know that by virtue of what you said something on yesterday. We talked about that. How do you know that you're doing it right?
How do we know that we're doing it right? We talked about so much. We had such a great meeting on yesterday.
Yes. How do we know that what we're doing is the right thing? First of all, it lines up with the word.
Exactly.
Because that's our faith base. It lines up with the word. And when you deal with Eastern religions, you deal with Hinduism and Buddhism and some of the other religions that talk about loving your brother like you love yourself, love your neighbor, meditate, blah, blah, blah. The scripture tells us there's a way that seemeth right unto man, but all of them teach the same thing. But the end thereof is different. Our destination is different, So, we know that we're doing it right when we have a sense of peace.
Yes.
We have a sense of peace about it. Yes. Okay.
Yes. And it comes back.
Right. Renita said, we must face our me, myself, and I. Yeah.
All three of those people. All three of those come, because we are three components.
Yes. Yes.
A man is a spirit that lives in a body that possesses a soul. That's me, and that's myself, and that is I. And so we have to face those three components. Whether we want to believe it or not, there is a God component inside of us. Whether we address him or not, he is there. And we learn to find peace when we find that place in him.
Right. So examples of self-awareness. Can you think of any examples of self-awareness?
Yes. Any examples of self-awareness?
Yes.
I'm thinking, for me, that's a broad question.
Okay.
That's kind of a broad question for me.
Okay. Okay, self-awareness. Let me give an example. I was put on a platform with quite a few speakers, and I had my topic and they had their topics. So the last person that spoke was so awesome. The person that spoke before me was so awesome, and just the church just went up. Self-awareness is I'm not in competition with that person.
Right.
We're all up here for the same reason. It's to meet the needs of the people.
Yes.
The Spirit of God has moved in here, and that's ultimately what we wanted.
Right.
People are opening up to God. I'm putting my notes down. I don't have to get up and say, giving honor to God and everybody else in the house. I immediately get up and say, let's go to the altar.
Yes.
Self-awareness.
Yes.
Self-awareness does not have to have the last word.
Yes.
When you're dealing with a person that likes to argue, self-awareness says to you, they need that more than you do.
That's good. That's real good right there. Yes. That's good.
Dealing with people that are problematic, on your job. They don't want to talk to you. They have bad days. They got attitudes. They like to gossip. They like to talk. Self-awareness is, first of all, they don't go home with me. I don't take them home in my mind, and I don't take them home physically. I'm here on this job. Self-awareness says I'm staying in my lane, and that's a problematic person. Let her be a problem to everybody else, but she's not going to be or he's not going to be a problem, because it doesn't have to be a she, it could be a he. He's not going to be a problem. Or if you're dealing with a problematic supervisor, and I've had those. I've had, before sexual harassment came out, and I worked for Kaiser Steel for some 10 years, my boss was always sexually harassing because he hired young women, and I was shapely and all of that. and he would make these remarks to me, and they didn't have laws for sexual harassment. And all I would say, well, go on, you just need prayer. I navigated through all of that. I was self-aware of what was going on. But now when people are making passes at you, you know where to go. You can file a complaint. But when you're self-aware of what is going on around you, then you can make the right decisions. And that's another topic we're going to talk about is problem solving and decision making. Because some people don't know how to solve problems. They escalate situations in such a way that it becomes, the whole office becomes toxic. The church becomes toxic. So those are some examples of self-awareness. Our time is about up. Pastor K, let's just walk through what is self-management.
I think self-management is knowing how to manage not just your life, but manage one's own self, one's own emotions, one's feelings, one's attitudes, one's conversation, knowing how to manage your own self. I get teased a lot because there's only certain shows I watch on TV. I watch Frasier.
Who?
Frasier.
Okay.
The two psychiatrists.
Okay.
Him and his brother. Or I watch all of the Christmas programs. And my kids tease me. They say, Mama, is there any show that you have not watched? Well, this is self-management. I have to manage my own thinking, my own psychological health, my own mindset. There are TV shows that I just don't dare touch. I don't dare watch because of my mindset. I know what I'm capable of. I know I'm an imagine. When you're prophetic, Dr. Jackson, your mind is constantly working. Your imagination is constantly working. You can hear one sentence and it'll play throughout for a week, or you can hear one word. So self-management is you have to know what you can deal with and what you can't. You have to know what provokes you, what doesn't provoke you. Like I said last night, my youngest daughter, she has a phrase that she's coined, and she says, Mom, you got to pick your battles. You got to know how to pick your battles. And when she used to say that, I said, oh, she's just getting on my nerves, this little young. But as I grew in the past 10 years, I understand now what she's saying. Some things are not even worth dealing with. Like you said, Dr. Jackson, some things they're not even worth talking about. They're not even worth giving a comment to. There's some comments that people make in the past, or we could have had a whole big circle of conversation. But now it's like, oh, okay, that's the way you feel. That's fine. Everybody's entitled to how they feel.
Yes.
So self-management is knowing your do's and your don'ts. Knowing what you can take and what you can't take, knowing what you will take and what you won't. Because life is so strange. Life can hit you at a point where the very thing you said that you would not do, you can find yourself right there in the midst of it. So self-management that's the key to life. That's the key to your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Self-management is the key to your life. Manage yourself. I always tell my grandchildren when I have them around me, I say, you are the manager of your soul. You are the manager. You have to manage your soul. Learn how to be a good manager and be a successful manager. I appreciate Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris elect. She has self-managed. And when you self-manage, everybody's not going to agree with you. You're going to make mistakes in life. You're not always perfect. Don't let people past. I wrote a book about my past. You pay for it. I ain't hear nothing. I just put it all out there. So when you are aware of who you are and you manage who you are, you can become a very successful person. There's nothing that is impossible for you to do. You've been a great guest, Pastor K, and I really appreciate our friendship. I appreciate our energy. You are a great friend. You're a great supporter of all of who I am. And definitely, you know, whenever you need me, I will be there for you. I love you to life. And all of our Sweet Talk participants that have been on the line today, we certainly appreciate you. We want you to like it, like what, if you like it, like it. If you don't like it, don't like it then. If you like it, if you like it, comment and share with someone if you think this is going to help them. Just remember our disclaimer that none of us are clinical psychologist. I do have a degree in human services. I do have an honorary doctorate degree in ministry. I do have an earned master's degree in religious arts and 50 years of preaching experience all over the United States and in the West Indies. So coming to you, letting you know that I appreciate you. We come on Sweet Talk to help you. We're not here about anybody's denomination. We're not here about anybody's race, creed, or and it is for ladies, but we invite the gentlemen as well. They want to come on and assist us in the talk about life, because that is what we're talking about. If you want to share with this ministry, and I know that, you know, there's a lot of cash apps that are out, and, you know, we don't want to pull on anybody. If, you know, we just want you to know that we care about you and we want to have a discussion to help navigate. But there are some people out there that don't have a problem, that they got plenty of money. Hey, they got plenty of money. They ain't struggling at all. So I'm talking to you. You know, get on my you'll see my bio, and on my bio, my ministry bio, compliments of Lamar Ministries, Law Ministries, LAWMI, Law Ministries by Lamar Watts, powerful graphic web designer, hooks me up all the time. Get in contact with him. But if you want to be a blessing to this ministry, and blessing to what we're doing, by all means, help yourself. If you don't and you can't, don't worry about it. It's really okay. We appreciate you. Be in tune with us on next Wednesday at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time and 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, as we go to another segment of life skills. We want to see your face in the place. You just have a blessed and wonderful weekend. All right. We appreciate you. Have last words for us, Pastor K?
I love you. I just appreciate you, and thank you for the opportunity and trusting me to share with you. It was a pleasure. I had a ball.
Thank you. And our own Virginia representative, Gwen, who's having technical problems, that couldn't be on the front stage with us on tonight. Hopefully we'll eliminate all those problems for next Wednesday. Thank you so much. Gwen Hinton Perry, she is a daughter of mine. She's faithful, love her to life. She does outreach ministry. You know, hook up her page. So go look on her page and see all the stuff that she does in ministry. All of my children are prolific, and they're more prolific than I am, and I'm glad about that. All right, Pastor K, you have an awesome evening. Thank you so much for helping me facilitate. You all go with life skills and navigate through life. You can do this. Yes, you can. Goodbye.
Goodbye.